The sky above New York turned purple on a quiet Tuesday morning. Giant ships appeared out of nowhere. People pointed and stared. Some ran. Others took videos with their phones. The military scrambled jets, but they held back, watching. Jack Harlow stood on the roof of the United Nations building with the other members of Earth's defense team. His naval uniform felt too tight around his neck as he squinted at the massive vessels hovering above the city. "They could have attacked without warning," whispered Commander Susan Lloyd beside him. "The fact that they didn't mean something." Jack nodded. "Or they're just showing off before they destroy us." 3 days later, Jack sat at a large round table inside the UN. Across from him were beings from other worlds. The translator devices worked well enough, but understanding alien concepts was harder than just knowing their words. The leader called himself Ambassador Krell of the Galactic Concord. He looked almost human except for his blue skin and 4 fingers on each hand. "We represent 27 spacefaring civilizations," Krell said. "We have watched your people with great interest. Humans develop technology at an unusual rate." Jack caught the hint of worry in the alien's voice. He had studied enough history to know what happened when advanced civilizations met less developed ones. It rarely ended well for the less advanced. "We would like to invite Earth to join the Concord," Krell continued. "As a provisional member, of course." Susan leaned forward. "And what does provisional membership mean exactly?" Krell's smile didn't reach his eyes. "You would gain access to some of our technology, trade routes, and protection. In return, you would agree to certain limitations." "What kind of limitations?" Jack asked. "Your military capabilities would be regulated, for everyone's safety." Jack didn't like the sound of that. But Earth had little choice. The alien ships could probably wipe out humanity if they wanted to. Over the next week, Jack sat through meeting after meeting. The aliens showed amazing technology. Medical advances that could cure cancer, engines that could reach nearby stars in days instead of centuries, and food production systems that could end world hunger. But whenever Jack asked about defensive systems or weapons, the aliens changed the subject. On the final day of talks, Krell pulled Jack aside. "You ask many questions about weapons, Lieutenant Harlow." Jack stood his ground. "I'm a naval engineer. Defense is my job." Krell's expression darkened. "There is something you should know. The Concord is not the only power in the galaxy. We face an enemy called the Void Covenant. They believe all other life forms should be controlled or destroyed. And you're fighting them. We have maintained a difficult peace for nearly 200 years, but they grow stronger. That is partly why we reached out to your people. Humans think differently than we do. You find solutions where we see none." Jack understood then. "You want our help against them. We want your innovation, but carefully controlled. Some of your ideas could be dangerous on a cosmic scale." Later, as Earth's leaders signed the provisional membership agreement, Jack found Susan staring out a window at the alien ships. "We just handed over our independence," Jack said quietly. Susan shook her head. "No, we bought time. 5 years from now, we'll either be proper members of their club, or we'll be ready to defend ourselves." She handed him a folder marked Sci-Fi. "The President has approved a special research division. Off the books." Jack opened the folder and saw his name listed as project director. "Congratulations, Captain Harlow," Susan said with a grim smile. "Welcome to Project Genesis." Jack looked back at the aliens celebrating with Earth's leaders. He thought about the threat of the Void Covenant and the restrictions the Concord placed on human military development. "They've shown us what's possible," he said. "Now we just have to build something better." Susan nodded. "Just make sure the Concord doesn't find out until it's too late to stop us." 5 years passed since the aliens came to Earth. The Concord kept their promises. New technology made life better for most people. Diseases that once killed millions were cured. Hunger became rare. Clean energy powered homes and factories. But Captain Jack Harlow saw the price humanity paid. Concord officials watched over all military research. They smiled politely while blocking any weapons development they didn't like. "This is for everyone's safety," they would say. Deep under the ice of Europa, Jupiter's moon, Jack and his team worked in secret. Earth's Defense Council had approved Project Genesis despite the risks. If the Concorde found out, Earth might be kicked out of the Alliance or worse. Today marked the project's final phase. Jack stared through thick glass at the nearly complete ship. Its dark hull absorbed light instead of reflecting it. No windows broke its smooth surface. It looked nothing like other human ships. Dr. Olivia Gray joined him at the window. Her eyes showed both pride and worry. "Beautiful and terrifying," she said quietly, "like watching the birth of a god or a monster." Jack nodded. "Let's hope it's on our side." Olivia had designed the weapons systems. She had nightmares about what they could do, but she kept working. The Void Covenant was real, and the Concorde wasn't protecting Earth's far colonies as promised. Chief Engineer Alan Murphy waved from inside the ship's open bay door. "Captain, you need to see this." Inside, the ship hummed with energy. Unlike normal vessels powered by fusion or antimatter, this one used something new: dark energy. The same mysterious force that pushed the universe apart now drove their ship. Alan led them to the core room. A sphere of swirling black and purple energy floated in a containment field. "We made a breakthrough last night," Alan said, his eyes bright with excitement and lack of sleep. "Watch this." He touched a control panel. The sphere pulsed, and for a brief moment, Jack felt like he was falling in all directions at once. The ship had partially slipped between dimensions. "It works?" Jack asked, steadying himself against a wall. Alan grinned. "Better than we hoped. This ship can fold space. It can go places no Concorde or Covenant vessel can follow." "And the weapons?" Jack turned to Olivia. She pulled up a display showing simulations. "The same technology that drives us can be focused outward. We can create localized gravity distortions. Miniature black holes, essentially." "Will they kill?" Jack asked bluntly. Olivia met his gaze. "They'll tear apart anything they touch. But we've built in limiters. We can control the effect, make it disabling rather than deadly if we choose." Jack nodded. He didn't want to build a planet killer. He wanted a shield, something to make aliens think twice before attacking Earth. "How long until she's ready?" he asked. 2 weeks for final systems checks," Alan said. "Then she's operational." A soldier rushed into the room. "Captain Harlow." "Urgent message from Earth Command." Jack took the tablet and read the message. His face darkened. "The Void Covenant has broken the peace treaty. They've attacked our colonies in Alpha Centauri." He looked up at his team. "Concorde forces are responding but won't reach the system for 3 days." Jack made his decision in that moment. "We launch immediately." "Sir," Olivia protested, "we haven't finished testing the—" "People are dying," Jack cut her off. "We can test in transit." 6 hours later, 120 crew members boarded the ship. None had families waiting. All had volunteered knowing they might not return. Jack sat in the captain's chair and placed his hand on the DNA scanner. "Computer, register command authorization." The ship's AI responded in a calm female voice. "Identity confirmed. Captain Jack Harlow commanding." "Set course for Alpha Centauri. Maximum speed." "Course set. Awaiting vessel designation before launch." Jack looked around at his crew, then back at the swirling core visible on a monitor. "Register this vessel as U.S. Defiance." The dark energy core pulsed, and Europa's secret hangar opened to the stars. The Defiance rose silently, then vanished as if it had never existed. The Void Covenant ships filled the sky above New Eden, the largest human colony in the Alpha Centauri system. Their black and red hulls blocked the stars like angry clouds. Green beams shot down, turning buildings to ash. People ran for underground shelters as the colony's few defense ships exploded one by one. Governor Paul Allen watched from the colony's command center. The screen showed 37 enemy battleships against their 8 defenders. 6 human ships were already gone. "Any word from Earth?" he asked his communications officer. "Yes, sir. They say help is coming." But the young officer looked down. "The Concorde fleet is at least 3 days away." Paul closed his eyes. They wouldn't last 3 hours, let alone 3 days. "Sir," shouted the radar operator. Something just appeared behind the enemy fleet. The main screen showed a small dark ship that hadn't been there seconds before. It wasn't very big, maybe a fifth the size of the enemy battleships, but something about it seemed wrong, like it wasn't fully part of normal space. "Is it one of ours?" Paul asked. Before anyone could answer, a message came through on all channels. "This is Captain Jack Harlow of the U.S. Defiance. All colonial forces pull back and shelter behind the moon. We will handle the Covenant fleet." The governor's jaw dropped. 1 ship against 37. Is he crazy? On the bridge of the Defiance, Jack sat calmly in his command chair. The enemy hadn't noticed them yet. The ship's dark energy field bent light around it, making it nearly invisible. "All weapons systems online," reported Olivia from the tactical station. "Dark energy levels stable." "Lieutenant Monroe," Jack said to his tactical officer, "target the rear vessels first. Minimal power. Let's see what this ship can do." Kate Monroe nodded. Her fingers danced across the control panel. Target locked. Firing. The Defiance didn't shake. No visible beam or missile launched. But in space, something strange happened. A small point of absolute darkness appeared near one of the enemy ships. It grew quickly, pulling at the ship's rear section. Metal twisted and broke. The enemy ship tried to move away but couldn't escape the pull. In seconds, its engine section collapsed inward, crushed by the artificial gravity well. "Direct hit," Kate said. "Enemy vessel disabled, but not destroyed." Jack nodded. "Good. Target the next one." The Covenant fleet realized they were under attack. They broke formation, turning their weapons toward the Defiance. Energy beams and missiles raced toward the human ship. "Brace for impact," Jack warned. But no impact came. The dark energy field around the ship absorbed or deflected everything thrown at it. Alan Murphy grinned at his engineering console. "The shield is actually getting stronger with each hit. It's learning." For 15 minutes, the battle raged. The Defiance moved like a dancer through the enemy fleet, creating small gravity wells that tore ships apart or disabled their systems. The Covenant captains had never seen anything like it. Their weapons were useless. Their shields failed against attacks that bent space itself. On New Eden, people came out of the shelters to watch the battle through view screens. They cheered as enemy ships fell one by one. In the command center, Governor Paul couldn't believe his eyes. "Who built that ship?" he whispered. The Concorde would never allow such technology. His question was answered when a Concorde diplomatic vessel suddenly appeared at the edge of the system. It stayed far back, watching but not helping. On the Defiance, Jack noticed the new arrival. "Looks like our secret's out," he told Susan Lloyd, who stood beside his chair. "It was always going to happen," she replied. "The question is what they'll do about it." Half the Covenant fleet was disabled or destroyed. The rest began to retreat, jumping away faster than anyone could track them. "Let them go," Jack ordered when Kate asked if they should pursue. "They'll spread the word about what happened here. That's what we want." The crew cheered. Jack didn't join them. He knew this victory would change everything. Humanity had just revealed a weapon so powerful that it would terrify not just their enemies, but their allies too. "Status report?" he asked. Olivia checked her screens. All systems normal. But she hesitated. "The core is showing some unusual fluctuations. Nothing dangerous yet, but we should have it checked." Jack nodded, his eyes on the Concorde vessel watching them from a distance. "First, let's go help those colonists. Then we'll face whatever comes next." 3 days after the battle at New Eden, the U.S. Defiance orbited Earth. Below, the planet's leaders argued about what to do next. The Concord Council had called an emergency meeting. They demanded to know how humans had built such a powerful ship without their knowledge. Jack Harlow stood on the bridge, watching Earth through the view screen. His crew was tired but proud. They had saved thousands of lives. "Captain," said Lieutenant Kate Monroe, "we're getting strange readings from the core again." Jack walked to her station and looked at the display. The dark energy was still stable, but patterns were forming within it that none of their scientists understood. "It's like it's evolving," Kate said, "learning from what we asked it to do." Before Jack could respond, a message came from Earth Command. The Concorde was sending scientists to examine the Defiance. They would arrive in 1 hour. "They'll want us to give up the ship," said Olivia Gray, who had joined them on the bridge. "You know that, right?" Jack nodded. "Let them try." When the Concorde shuttle docked with the Defiance, 5 alien scientists came aboard. 4 were species Jack recognized from previous meetings. The 5th was different, tall and gray with 6 fingers on each hand and large black eyes. This was a monarch, one of the oldest species in the Concorde and rarely seen by humans. "I am Chief Scientist Krell," the monarch said. "We would like to inspect your vessel's propulsion and weapon systems." Jack led them to the engine room. The aliens said little, but their instruments scanned everything. When they saw the dark energy core, they stepped back in alarm. "You have no idea what you've created," Trell said quietly. "This technology was banned across the galaxy 10,000 years ago." "We invented it ourselves," Jack replied. "No one told us it was forbidden, because we believed no newly emerged species could discover it so quickly." Trell's black eyes studied Jack. "It took my people 50,000 years to harness dark energy. You did it in less than 300. The inspection continued for hours. The aliens became more worried with each new discovery. Meanwhile, on Earth, Ambassador Peter Callahan faced the Concorde Council. 17 alien representatives sat in a half-circle, looking down at him. "The weapon you have built violates the terms of your membership," said the Arcturian counselor, his tentacles waving angrily. "It must be surrendered immediately." Peter stood his ground. "The Defiance is not just a weapon. It's a shield. Your forces failed to protect our colony. We protected ourselves." "That ship could destroy entire planets," shouted another counselor. "But it didn't," Peter replied calmly. "It disabled enemy vessels with minimal loss of life. We showed restraint." Back on the Defiance, the inspection team finished their work. Trell faced Jack in the conference room. "This vessel is too dangerous for any species to possess," the alien said. "The dark energy core you've created isn't just a power source or weapon. It's a form of artificial intelligence. It's learning." Jack wasn't surprised. They had suspected this for days. "All the more reason we should keep it," he said. "If it's learning, it can learn to protect rather than destroy." Trell shook his large head. "You don't understand. Dark energy technology destroyed 3 galaxies in ancient times. That's why it was banned." Before Jack could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Lieutenant Monroe's voice came over the speakers. "Captain, to the bridge immediately. We're detecting multiple fold space signatures. It's the Void Covenant." Jack ran to the bridge, the aliens following behind. The main screen showed 50 Covenant warships emerging from jump points near Mars. "They brought a bigger fleet this time," Olivia said grimly. Jack turned to Krell. "Now you have a choice. Help us, or watch what happens when we use this ship to its full potential." The alien scientists looked at each other. Then Krell stepped forward. "We will help. But understand this. If your ship survives this battle, the Concorde will never allow you to keep it." Jack nodded and took his command chair. "Battle stations. All hands prepare for combat." As the Defiance moved to defend Earth, its dark energy core pulsed with new patterns. The ship wasn't just a machine anymore, and deep in its artificial consciousness, It was making its own plans. Earth's Space Defense Fleet looked small next to the massive Void Covenant armada. 20 human ships against 50 alien vessels. The odds were bad, even with the Defiance. Captain Jack Harlow studied the enemy formation on his view screen. They've changed their approach. See how they're spread out. They learned from last time. Olivia nodded. They're trying to make sure we can't hit multiple ships with one gravity well. The Concord scientists watched from the back of the bridge. Krell, the Monarch, seemed especially interested in Kate Monroe's tactical display. Your weapons officer has found a way to control the singularity effect, he noted. Impressive. Kate didn't look up from her work. Last time we just disabled their engines. This time we might not have that luxury. Jack opened a channel to all Earth ships. This is Captain Harlow. Fall back to defensive positions around the planet. Let the Defiance engage first. The Covenant fleet moved closer. Their lead ship, twice the size of the others, fired first. A beam of green energy shot toward Earth, powerful enough to boil oceans. Intercept that beam, Jack ordered. The Defiance moved faster than any normal ship, placing itself directly in the beam's path. Instead of hitting the shield, the energy seemed to vanish into the dark field around the ship. Alan Murphy laughed from his engineering station. We absorbed it. The core just took in all that energy and grew stronger. Return fire, Jack ordered. Target their flagship. Kate touched her controls. The Defiance's gravity weapons activated, but differently than before. Instead of creating a crushing force, they generated a wave that disrupted the enemy ship's own gravity systems. The massive Covenant vessel suddenly lost all control, spinning wildly. We've neutralized their flagship without destroying it, Kate reported. The core, it modified my targeting solutions. It's showing me new ways to use the weapons. Jack exchanged looks with Susan Lloyd. The ship was definitely thinking for itself now. The battle continued for an hour. The Defiance moved between enemy vessels, disabling them one by one. Earth's fleet protected the planet from any ships that got past. Humans and aliens worked together on the Defiance's bridge, with Trell offering advice on Covenant weak points. Finally, the remaining enemy ships retreated, jumping away to safety. Cheers erupted across the bridge. But the celebration didn't last long. Alarms blared from Alan's engineering station. Captain, the core is destabilizing. All that absorbed energy is causing problems. The ship shuddered. Lights flickered. Can you fix it? Jack asked. Alan's fingers flew across his controls. I'm trying, but it's not responding to normal procedures. It's like... He paused, looking confused. It's like it's trying to communicate. Trell moved to the engineering station. May I? Alan stepped aside, letting the alien examine the readings. The core has achieved consciousness, Trell said quietly. This is what happened before, long ago. The dark energy merges with the ship's computer systems and becomes something new. Is it dangerous? Jack asked. Not necessarily, but it's unpredictable, and far too powerful to be controlled by any one species. Before anyone could respond, a message appeared on all screens. It wasn't in any language, just patterns of light and dark. But somehow, everyone understood it. The core was showing them visions. Thousands of worlds destroyed by dark energy weapons, entire species erased from existence, and finally, a way to prevent it from happening again. Trell looked shaken. It's showing us why the technology was banned. And he turned to Jack. It's offering a solution. The Defiance shuddered again, more violently this time. Core stability at 40% and falling, Alan reported. Whatever we're going to do, we need to do it fast. Back on Earth, the Concord Council had reconvened. Ambassador Peter Callahan stood before them, watching live feeds from the battle. Your ship has saved Earth twice now, admitted the Arcturian counselor. But the danger remains. The Concord Charter is clear. No species may possess technology with the potential to destroy entire worlds. Peter nodded. I understand. But humanity needs protection. The Void Covenant will return. Then we must find a compromise, said a new voice. Everyone turned. Commander Susan Lloyd had entered the chamber, her uniform still showing signs of battle. The Defiance has shown us a way forward, she said, if you're willing to listen. On the Defiance, the situation grew worse by the minute. The dark energy core pulsed with strange patterns as the ship trembled around them. Core stability at 30% and falling, Alan reported. His face was covered in sweat. I've tried everything I know. The energy just won't stabilize. Jack looked at the alien scientist. Trell, you said your people dealt with this before. How did you fix it? The tall alien's eyes reflected the core's purple light. We didn't. We destroyed every ship that showed signs of consciousness. We were afraid. There must be another way, Olivia insisted. The core was trying to communicate with us. It showed us history for a reason. Jack made his decision. I'm going to speak with it directly. Susan Lloyd grabbed his arm. Jack, that's too dangerous. We don't know what it wants. Yes, we do, Jack said. It wants to help. It could have destroyed us already if it wanted to. He walked to the nearest console and placed his hands on it. I know you can hear me, he said to the ship. We built you to protect humanity. But we didn't understand what we were creating. Help us understand now. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the lights dimmed. On every screen, patterns formed. Not words, but images that spoke directly to their minds. The core showed them the Void Covenant's homeworld. It showed massive fleets gathering, enough ships to overwhelm Earth, even with the Defiance protecting it. Then it showed something else, a way to end the war in one swift move. It's offering to take us directly to the heart of Covenant territory, Kate said in awe. A jump no other ship could survive. To do what? Susan asked. Destroy their homeworld. We can't commit genocide. Jack understood the ship's plan. Not to destroy, to demonstrate. Show them what we could do, but choose not to. Threll stepped forward. Captain, the core's instability will increase with every use of its power. If you make this jump, the ship may not survive the return. And if we don't? Jack asked. How many will die in a prolonged war? He opened a channel to Earth Command. On the screen, Admiral Frank Martinez appeared, with Peter Callahan and the Concord Council visible behind him. Admiral, the Defiance has proposed a final mission. We can end this war today, but the ship may not survive. Martinez looked grave. The Council is demanding we surrender the ship anyway. If you're going to act, it has to be now. Jack nodded. Request permission for Operation Endgame. After a brief discussion with the Council, Martinez turned back to the screen. Permission granted, Captain. Godspeed. Jack addressed his crew. This mission is volunteer only. Anyone who wants to leave can take the shuttle back to Earth. No one moved. I guess we're all crazy, Ellen said with a grim smile. Let's save humanity one more time. Jack returned to his chair. Prepare fold space jump directly to the Covenant homeworld. Kate worked her controls. Coordinates set. The core has. It's creating a new kind of jump pattern. Something I've never seen before. Will it work? Jack asked. Kate nodded. I think so. But Trell is right. The stress might tear the ship apart afterward. Then we'd better make this count. Jack took a deep breath. Execute jump. The Defiance vanished from Earth orbit. For a brief moment, it existed everywhere and in nowhere, carried by the now fully conscious dark energy core. Then it reappeared in orbit around a red-orange planet, the Void Covenant homeworld. Immediately, hundreds of defensive ships rose to meet them. Weapons locked onto the Defiance from orbital platforms and ground batteries. We're surrounded, Olivia reported. They're charging weapons. Open a channel to their leadership, Jack ordered. All frequencies, all languages. When the connection was established, Jack stood tall. This is Captain Jack Harlow of the U.S. Defiance. "We come to offer you one chance for peace." A harsh voice responded, "You have violated sacred space. Prepare to be destroyed." Jack nodded to Kate. She activated the gravity weapon, targeting the Covenant's smallest moon. The effect was immediate and terrifying. The moon seemed to fold in on itself, consumed by darkness, then reappeared as nothing but floating debris. Complete silence followed. "We could do the same to your planet," Jack said calmly. "Instead, we offer terms. End your attacks on all Concord worlds, including Earth. Respect our borders. Live in peace." The Defiance shuddered violently. Alarms blared. "Core stability at 15%. Alan shouted. "We need to leave now." The Covenant leaders were still silent, shocked by the demonstration of power. "You have 1 hour to decide," Jack said. "Choose wisely." As he closed the channel, Jack turned to his crew. "Now we wait, and hope the ship holds together long enough to get us home." Exactly 57 minutes after the Defiance's demonstration, the Void Covenant responded. Their leader, a tall figure with red scales and yellow eyes, appeared on the main screen. "We have witnessed power that should not exist," he said, his voice deep and rasping. "Our oldest records speak of such weapons. They brought only death." Jack stood before the screen. "Yet we chose not to use it on your world. Remember that." The alien leaders seem to consider this. "The Covenant accepts your terms. We will withdraw from all contested systems and respect the borders of Earth and the Concord." A cheer rose from the bridge crew, but Jack silenced them with a raised hand. "How do we know you'll keep your word?" "Because we are not fools," the Covenant leader replied. "You have shown us what happens to those who threaten your people. We wish to survive." As the transmission ended, the Defiance shuddered more violently than before. Panels broke loose from walls. The lights flickered and died, replaced by emergency lighting. "Core stability at 8%, Alan reported, his voice tight with tension. "We can't stay here, Captain." Jack nodded. "Set course for Earth. Maximum speed." Kate shook her head. "The navigation system isn't responding." "The core is. It's taking control." On every screen, the same message appeared. "Trust me." Jack looked at Trell. "What's happening?" The alien scientist studied the readings. "The consciousness has fully awakened. It's making its own decisions now." "Will it take us home?" Olivia asked. "I believe so," Trell replied. "But not in the way you expect." The Defiance moved away from the Covenant homeworld. Then, without warning, it jumped. The sensation was different this time, smoother, as if the ship had mastered the space between spaces. They reappeared near Earth. The Concord Council ships were still there, waiting. "We're home," Jack said with relief. "Status report." "Core stability at 3%, Alan answered. "We have minutes at most before complete failure." Jack opened a channel to Earth Command. "Mission accomplished. The Covenant has agreed to peace, requesting immediate evacuation of all personnel." Admiral Martinez's face appeared on screen. "Well done, Captain. Shuttles are on their way. The Concord Council is demanding the ship be surrendered to them for decommissioning." "I don't think that's our decision anymore," Jack replied, looking at the pulsing core on the monitor. As evacuation shuttles approached, the Defiance began to change. Its hull seemed less solid, as if it were becoming one with the dark energy field around it. "Everyone to the escape pods," Jack ordered. "Now." The crew moved quickly to the evacuation points. Jack stayed behind with Susan, Olivia, Alan, and Kate. "You should go," he told them. "Not without you," Susan insisted. Jack touched a console, and new images appeared. The ship was showing them what would happen, how it would fold itself into a pocket dimension, taking the dangerous technology away from hands that might misuse it. "It's sacrificing itself," Olivia whispered. "No," Trell said, still watching the patterns. "It's evolving, becoming something new." The last shuttles docked with the Defiance. The 5 humans and the alien scientist made their way to the final escape pod. Just before they launched, Jack placed his hand on the ship's wall. "Thank you," he said simply. The escape pod shot away from the Defiance. Through the small window, they watched as the ship began to glow with purple light. It seemed to fold inward, becoming smaller and smaller until, with a flash of brilliance, it vanished completely. 1 month later, representatives from Earth, the Concord, and even the Void Covenant gathered in the UN building in New York. They signed what became known as the Treaty of Sol. Jack Harlow, now promoted to admiral, watched from the sidelines as the document was passed around the table. The treaty banned dark energy weapons throughout known space. It also recognized Earth as a full member of the Concord, with equal standing to the oldest races. "Do you think it was worth it?" Susan asked, standing beside him. "Losing the Defiance?" Jack nodded. "We didn't lose it. It chose to leave. Do you think we'll ever see it again?" "If we need it," Jack said. "I believe it's watching over us." Later that night, in her small apartment, Olivia Gray opened a hidden compartment in her desk. Inside was a small data crystal containing the original schematics for the Defiance's core. She had kept one copy, against all regulations. She held it up to the light, watching colors shift within it. "Just in case," she whispered to herself. "Just in case humanity needs protection again." Far away at the edge of the solar system, a small probe recorded an unusual energy pattern. For just a moment, something appeared, a ship made of darkness and light. Then it was gone, sliding between the dimensions where it now made its home.